Dear Void, the UK, Canada and Australia have recognized the Palestinian state. And you know what? I really didn't want to make this video because I didn't want to give it the weight that the media gives it, both in Israel and outside of it, because it is utterly and totally meaningless. And they know it. But since multiple people said getting a different perspective is sort of a comfort to them, I thought I'd offer this one for the Jewish New Year. Also, it kind of talks to the point I'm making on this channel repeatedly, both about the antisemitism of the West and how much those Europeans are so full of themselves. How they still act under the delusion of their fake imperialism, even as they are completely powerless. It's pathetic, really. Because around 150 countries already recognize Narnia. I mean Palestine. Sorry, I sometimes confuse fake countries. Anyway, around 150 countries already recognize the scam of Palestine as if it's a real thing, and nothing happened. Oh, but now things will be completely different because the fucking Brits and Canada say so, and Australia. Oh yeah, that superpower, now that they are in the mix, things are going to be different, right? They are totally more important than 150 other countries, right? Come on, people. Just stop following the media trail and think. What we've seen here is a spectacle of autofellatio. And those countries' dicks are so small, I imagine they broke their backs in the act. Look, you want to know how much of a scam the entire thing is? If I'm Israel's Prime Minister right now, my reaction is to congratulate the Europeans for their brilliance and say we can't wait for the Palestinians to accept the conditions that you presented and we can all put this thing behind us. Why? Because the conditions presented in those countries' declarations and in the declaration that the anti-Semite Macron is preparing with the Arab world is the release of all hostages with no conditions, and the Palestinian state will be demilitarized with no air force, and there will be reforms in TV and schools to remove anti-Semitic materials, which is basically everything, so they'll need to start from scratch. And no party that calls for violence against Israel would be allowed to participate in their future elections. Dude, if I'm the Prime Minister of Israel, I'm goading Abbas, the President of the Palestinian Authority, to accept that deal. I'm challenging him to accept that. Go ahead. Go ahead. Say that to your people in Arabic. Say to them, these are the conditions we accepted and we are now going to end the conflict. Go ahead. Come on. You have Keir Starmer at your side. What are you waiting for? What could go wrong? I'm sure there are Westerners out there who can't understand why I find it so funny. Well, if Abbas or any Palestinian leader actually accepts this kind of a deal, they will be almost immediately killed by their own people. Because the entire point of the very existence of the Palestinian scam is to wipe out Jews and take their homeland. Not to have peace, under any circumstance. And that's the scam. The West knows that. Those fine Europeans, they know all of that. That's why they themselves insist on those kind of conditions. Because they know it would be suicidal of us to agree to an armed Palestinian state next to us, especially after the 7th of October. They know who the Palestinians are and what they are about. And they also know that these things, they never matter. Those declarations, those UN decisions, they are all dust, they're nothing. Did you know that in the 1970s, the UN declared in a resolution that Zionism is racism? Yeah, they voted that every time a Jew believes they have the human right of self-determination, they are being racist. They actually declared that not seeing Jews as less than human is racist. And guess what? Nothing happened. Israel was still there, and 10 years later, in another vote, they reversed that decision. The UN is a joke. The entire diplomatic world is a joke. The UN is meaningless. They are worse than a Facebook page. We really should work to dismantle this silly organization, which makes a mockery out of every value we hold dear. The organization where Iran, China, and North Korea sit on the Human Rights Council. Come on. Also, like I said, 150 countries have already recognized Narnia, and guess what? We are still Narnia free. It's not about that at all. It's theater. It's about Keir Starmer having a video message in which, as usual, he looks like he had just shat his pants. I mean, seriously, how come this guy with that face became the Prime Minister of Britain? Fuck's sakes. Well, I mean, the Brits couldn't figure out that this guy is a pervert, so yeah, not great judges of character. Now, anyway, it's about making that video dodging questions and saying to his insane Islamist party members, see, I'm one of you, don't replace me. And that's what it's about for the rest of those losers. And of course, about signaling to their base that they are just as anti-Semitic as everyone else, so you don't need to worry about us. They know the rules, they follow the plan. And yes, this is an obvious anti-Semitic step. Aside from the fact that it's Westerners thinking that they have a say about what will happen with our land, with Judea, with Zion, with the land of Israel. Aside from that, this is the governments of the West saying to the world, if you murder Jews, we will reward you. As simple as that. And we already knew that that was their position, as they kept funding the Palestinian Authority, even as it was proven to have a pay-to-slay policy, where they would pay the families of dead terrorists if those terrorists died while murdering Jews. And most of those governments still support UNRWA, which the UN itself admitted at least 9 of the workers actively participated in the 7th of October atrocities, actually murdering people, killing children, raping women. And we all know that it was in far bigger numbers than that. UNRWA also participated in infrastructure, recruitment, and propaganda and brainwashing materials for Hamas, producing some of the worst anti-Semitic incitement materials you can find, and feeding it to school children. But it's all good for Western governments, our allies. It's time for both Israelis specifically and Jews in general to understand that the West is not our ally. Some countries are, but the West as a whole, especially Europe, was never our ally. And no, it's not because they have been conquered by our cousins. Although, don't get me wrong, the West is kinda doomed, but that's a topic for another video. But no, when it comes to us, they never needed our cousins in order to be vile, subhuman anti-Semites. They did it all by the lonesome during 2,000 years of persecution. They did it all by the lonesome when they committed atrocities like the Inquisition and the Holocaust. They didn't need Muslim immigrants then, and they don't need them now. What is really behind this recognition of Narnia is Western imperialism. In the end of the day, they still believe that they are the owners of the land, and it's up to them to give it to whoever they choose. Ironically enough, that was the main reason the Arabs originally objected to Zionism. They viewed Jewish self-determination as a trick by the West. They saw it as the Crusaders using the Jews to take a land that they viewed as rightfully Arab. The Jews, meanwhile, were of course just taking back their own homeland from both the Arab colonialists and the Western imperialists. The only natives of Judea are the Jews. There's fucking clue is in the name, Judea. But the West never gave up on the idea that the land is theirs, as well as the entire world for that matter. And it comes both from their addiction to subjugating other people, as well as their so-called Christian values. Because if you take the time to listen to Christians on YouTube, you'll find several of them referring to the land of Israel as Christian lands, and even using that phrase to justify the Crusades. Those same Crusades where the moment they entered Jerusalem, they burned down all the synagogues with the people inside. In short, this is nothing but the usual villains signaling to their flock that they remain as villainous as ever. They know who Abbas is. They know about pay to slay. They know what the Palestinian Authority is. They know the reforms will never happen. They know there will never be a Palestinian state, even if Israel fully accepts and agrees to everything they said, because the so-called Palestinians will never accept the two-state solution themselves. It's theater. They know it's a lie. and they still keep pushing these nonsense declarations, recognitions, because it's not about us, and it's not about the Arabs pretending to be Palestinians, and it's not about the war. It's about them. It's about their image. It's about their regimes. And the only ones who don't know it are the usual useful idiots. Because the truth is that the two-state solution was already offered to the Palestinians in full, all the way back in the year 2000. 100% of the territory, half of Jerusalem, lock, stock, the lot. And the then leader, the Egyptian terrorist Yasser Arafat, said no and started a war. And this is not me, the Zionist Jew, who says that. It's Bill Clinton, who was there and worked very hard on the two-state solution at a time when he believed the so-called Palestinians are honest about it. He was fooled. I was fooled. I was supporting it too. See, Yasser Arafat couldn't agree to this two-state solution because that would have invalidated the entire point of the Palestinian scam, which is to murder all Jews in the land of Israel in the name of pan-Arabism or extreme Arab nationalism. That's why an Egyptian started calling himself a Palestinian in the 1960s. He was born in Egypt, he grew up in Egypt, went to the university in Cairo, had a decades-long legal dispute with the authorities there because he claimed that his family owned a piece of land in Egypt for generations. He was an Egyptian. His only connection to Palestine was that his mom was born in Jerusalem. Well, my grandma was born in Jerusalem too. She had a Palestinian passport under the British mandate. And her father was born in Jerusalem too, some 27 years before that. By the 19th century, Jews were a majority in Jerusalem again. And my great-grandfather was considered an Ottoman citizen and a Palestinian Jew. Because the root of the scam is to disguise the fact that Palestine is the name of a region. It was never a country, it was never a kingdom, never an ethnicity. Anyone living there was a Palestinian, whether you're Jewish or Arab. It's like saying European. And they only started using that name as an ethnicity after 1967. Before that, Judea and Samaria, which the Arab colonialists renamed the West Bank, it was under Jordanian occupation, the Gaza Strip under Egyptian occupation for 20 years. And nobody cared. Nobody was calling for a free Palestine there because it's a scam. Arafat couldn't accept peace because the entire point of the Palestinian scam is to invalidate the Jewish claim to their own homeland and use the Palestinians as a way to attack Jews and gain world support for it. Accepting the two-state solution would destroy the plan. And the plan worked, at least in a sense that it has become accepted by people around the world as true, including naive Israelis such as myself, and made sure that Israel remains under a perpetual state of war and pressure. But the plan failed because Israel has proven itself to be unbreakable by that pressure. So what should we do? I think we need to perform another miracle. We already performed two, the existence of Israel and the resurrection of Hebrew as a daily used spoken language. Now it's time for the third one, saving the world from the Palestinian scam, waking the entire world up. It seems impossible, I know, but so did starting a Jewish state and making everyone in it speak Hebrew. We seem to have a knack for getting the impossible done. I used to be a supporter of the two-state solution. Hell, on this very channel, I still have a video where I lay down conditions that would still make me accept it. But they'll never happen. And those conditions are if Israel is invited to join NATO, and NATO is on the border, so when the Palestinians break the agreement and attack, and they will, it would be NATO who would be attacked and have to respond rather than Israel. And Israel has to have a say about the content of schools and media in the Arab world so we can fight antisemitism there. And both the Arab world and the West have to accept the international definition of antisemitism as law, which makes it illegal to call for the destruction of Israel, which is a call for a second Holocaust. Give me those conditions and I will support the two-state solution. But that will never happen. So plan B. We must stop entertaining the Palestinian scam. There's no such thing. There's no such people. There's no such ethnicity. They don't exist. And yet, of course, a humane solution for the situation of the offspring of the Arab colonialists who live now in our land under the scam of Palestinians needs to be found. I personally think a series of autonomous emirates, like an Arab leader recently suggested, might be the best solution. But whatever it is, we must reject the Palestinian scam. Never recognize the Palestinian people because they do not exist. Never allow that flag to be recognized or to be used. It is the modern day Nazi flag. All it symbolizes is a desire for a second Holocaust. This is the meaning of From the River to the Sea, seeing the nearly 8 million Jews who live now in Israel murdered or forcefully displaced. Never accept that. Stop giving the scam and its symbols legitimacy. It starts with us. Western nations will celebrate a second Holocaust. Don't fool yourself. Stop thinking they have our best interest at heart. See the wolves behind the human mask. It comes down to this. This is our land. It does not belong to the Arab colonialists who want to reconquer it, and it does not belong to the imperialist Westerners. They don't get to give us a piece of what is already ours. But it has to start with us. Reject the Palestinian scam. That's the only right answer to their anti-Semitic theater.